Let's take a moment this afternoon to explore the truly transformative potential of blockchain technology for creating, for making, designing with intentionality a positive impact. Let's discover real-world applications on how blockchain can support change and action through innovative solutions. This really will be a great panel and a great opportunity for you to learn not only how to do well yourself, but to make an impact and create that legacy for the purpose that we all want to live every single day. Here to lead the discussion, CoinDesk columnist Leah Callan-Butler.
Glad to be back on the stage. Thanks for having me, guys. This is the panel I've got to say I've been looking forward to all day. Blockchain for Good was the reason that I got into this space back in 2016. So I'm always up for a conversation in terms of how blockchain is delivering real-world impact. Before we dive right in, maybe we can just go down our panel. You can each introduce yourselves and perhaps what organization you're from, the work that you're doing, and why you're motivated to do that. Carmen, do you want to kick us off?
Hello, everyone. My name is Carmen Het. I'm UNHCR's corporate treasurer. So we got into blockchain about 2 years ago. And the motivation really was to have transactional execution on the financial side to get transparency and accountability. And of course, the reporting to our donors is obviously paramount. So we have on each on individual transaction flows and also on the data flows, on the data and the money flows, we actually can account for every dollar and real time. So this is really our biggest motivation to use the technology. We deliver with speed. So the speed is of essence when people are obviously in need. So it seems almost like, it's difficult to argue why not to use blockchain.
Absolutely. Very bullish. We're going to have to come back to that. Alex, do you want to go next?
Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Maza. I work at the intersection of blockchain and sustainability at the Cardano Foundation. Typically, what I do is some partnership work, as well as supporting the community on sustainability-related initiatives. The way I look at this from the CF perspective is you have blockchain for sustainability in the application of the technology for this theme, and then you have blockchain, well, the sustainability of blockchain. So how does this techno-social public infrastructure continue to exist and deliver its services for the many and in many years in the future? Thanks.
Hi, everybody. My name is Teo Petricevic. I'm coming from UNDP, United Nations Development Program, from the innovation team, from the Istanbul Regional Hub. Basically, my background is, like, for the last 20 years, I have been working and developing different kinds of the innovation ecosystems, mainly in Europe and MENA region. I was really involved in the development of the impact business ecosystems and impact investment ecosystems. And yeah, last 2 years I worked for UNDP, basically trying to see how we can use the social innovation methodology and how we can leverage the new technologies in the development implementation of UNDP development projects. So yeah, my passion is definitely social innovation for long years.
That's wonderful. It's great to be able to work in an area that really inspires you as well. So that's a great overview. I'd love to dig a little bit deeper now and maybe understand some of the use cases, maybe even case studies that you're seeing in your work. Carmen, I was hoping we could kick off with you because in prepping for this panel, I read an alarming stat that I think for the first time in history, we're going to have more displaced people, forcibly displaced people than ever before. I think over 110 million people by the middle of this year. So maybe you can help us understand a little bit more about, the specific applications of blockchain in this situation, and also what were the problems that you were aiming to solve? You know, like what, through the application of blockchain, what can we do now that we couldn't before?
Yeah. Yes, we have, unfortunately, a lot of people on the move. So it's 114 million people that are forcibly displaced.
Wow.
So you can imagine that we need solutions that are really being able to deliver with speed. So I was already saying that the speed is really very important. What we couldn't solve before is to have a seamless chain. So on the blockchain, it's really seamless with the integration to be able to deliver the aid directly to the beneficiary, to the person of concern or the recipient. So I have to get the terminology straight. But the key is they're either the refugees or they are internally displaced. And in this way, we can deliver directly on device. So our motivation is really from this augmented people on the move, how we serve them, how we can serve them, and more importantly, of course, it's the most efficient and effective way to actually being able to do that. There's a cost implication, so it is a reduction on cost. So this is quite important, of course, because every dollar, we have to make sure that every dollar, you know, goes to every dollar to be delivered. So we have obviously costs to do that. But nevertheless, we want to keep the transactional costs down as much as we can. So on one side, we are benefiting from blockchain on the disbursement side, but we're also benefiting from blockchain on the fundraising side to be able to use the Cardano stake pool and to have the rewards towards our underfunded projects. So the community has been absolutely phenomenal to be able to help us how we can use a staking pool, the rewards from that for our underfunded programs. And to obviously also use it for the innovation. So we are only at the beginning. I think those of you who were here yesterday, we are only at the beginning of embracing this technology. And it helps us also to carve out other projects to use blockchain in this way. So also, we were able to benefit on NFTs actually to go to certain meetings and have the proof of attendance and raise our visibility as well. So it's really multifaceted at this stage how we use blockchain.
Yeah, that's very forward-thinking in terms of really looking at the entire Web3 toolkit. Yeah, very interesting. How about you, Alex? Like real-world use cases, real applications that we can see today?
There are plenty, and many tend to be in the earlier stages, though and there are many really, really useful use cases that we see in Cardano, where you're connecting DeFi fundamentals to real-world financial applications, and some of these are actually here at the summit. But I just want to go back to the stake pool example that Carmen mentioned, where this is super innovative in the sense that this is the first, well, Switzerland for UNHCR, which actually manages the With Refugees stake pool, is the first registered charity to actually run and manage its own stake pool. Not only is it generating rewards to support the refugee cause, it's also securing the Cardano network. And in doing so, we've learned a tremendous amount about what are some of the challenges that the UN Refugee Agency has. And they've definitely, I think, learned a lot around the blockchain side of things. So this mutual learning has been incredibly, incredibly valuable to us, because typically what happens in technology spaces is we have this desire for solutionism. This technology or that technology will solve everything. And this was really an exercise of humility and mutual learning. And what we've seen so far is that this concept can work with a crypto community, and what we want to see it work with is with people that aren't familiar with Web3, where Web3 technologies exist, are in the back end, and add value, but where you have a user experience, it's something that people that aren't in our industry are completely accustomed to. So I think a key point in any form of Web3-based applications in the humanitarian or development sector needs to have a strong user experience that people are typically accustomed to, because signing a wallet, remembering key phrases, and all this type of stuff that we're super used to is not what 99% of the global population is going to be able to deal with.
Oh, 100%. You know, you speak to an average person and say, don't forget these 12 words because your money is gone. You know, most people are like, why would I use this? Yeah. Removing the friction with user onboarding is definitely critical. Yeah. Tio, what does it look like in your world?
Well, when we are talking about the UNP ecosystem, like working and embracing the new technology, especially the blockchain technology, is like still new thing. We started exploring the potentials of blockchain and technology integration in the development projects, I think, like 6 years ago, when we had the first programs developed for, I think it was for Sudan and Uganda, regarding the implementation and of the stable coins in their economy, but we also experimenting in different fields with Altfin Lab structures, for example, where we have been working on traceability projects. One of them just recently finished was helping, I think it was for Ecuadorian cocoa farmers, helping them basically to trace the materials they're using and the production in order to place the chocolate on the global level. But basically, it's a little bit tricky to develop this kind of the projects and collaborate on them, because as you know, UNDP is basically one of the advocates of the SDGs. So when we are talking about the implementation of different kind of the new technologies and the development projects, we should think about the measurement of the positive impact or negative impact to the SDGs. That's why this is a little bit tricky, I would say, field for the discussion, because mostly we are talking about the alignment of the projects and initiatives to the SDGs. We are not really talking about the contribution of the initiatives and projects to the SDGs, and that's why we have a huge amount of the SDG hashing and washing and impact washing happening. That's why our team basically started to map what kind of the initiatives regarding the blockchain implementation we had in the past within the UNDP, in order to understand what were the successful projects, what projects basically made a significant positive impact, what of the projects basically produced some kind of the negative impacts in the local communities. And I would say this is the good direction now, because if you look on the macro level, a lot of new technology is used in terms to really somehow wash the activities which are base of the organizations. Like there was one report from PricewaterhouseCoopers from 2019, I think, which said that in US alone, like 72% of the businesses claimed that they are contributing to the SDGs.
Yeah.
Just 14% basically showed that they are contributing to some of the indicators. But then again, there was no measurement system in place, so without the proof. I think this is like a huge area to be discussed when we are talking about how well we will use the technology in our operations. If we will use it well, then we will basically see really good positive impactful projects. If not, I think we'll just contribute to the problems we have.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and particularly for something like blockchain tech that is really rooted in trust and transparency and that ability to be able to be very clear and accountable in terms of data. I'm wondering if Alex or Carmen would like to add to that. You know, do the SDGs play into some of these projects that you're looking at, and how do you think about these metrics and measurements?
So on this specific topic, it's super important in the sense that, of course, you could look at any, let's say, social business built on a blockchain and analyze it using the SDG framework or some of the others. But the key question is, how much impact, how much additionality does blockchain bring to a technology business that does good? And this is a topic that many in the industry are starting to look at. Some have developed more advanced frameworks than others. And essentially, there's a need for standardization here because there's always a lot of claims of impact. What is the blockchain component to that claim realistically? And that's still a question that remains unanswered, even though we're getting closer and closer to a more standardized framework in the industry.
Yeah. I think I would like to add that the empowerment that the blockchain actually provides is obviously phenomenal for the refugees that we serve. And towards the Sustainable Development Goals, the key here is really financial inclusion, economic inclusion, and to have that financial digital literacy that actually comes with it. So each time we actually provide our aid in digital format that actually allows the refugee also to go onto that journey together. So empowerment is at different levels from a donor perspective, because any of you could actually be an individual donor towards these programs, and actually understanding that your $100 actually go to the refugee directly and will be used. But not only that, in the country where we actually provide this aid is, we expect that each dollar really creates $4, so we have a multiplier effect also on economic impact. So whilst measurement is obviously a difficult one, exactly, but we are on that journey to really make a huge step change towards SDGs, because we all know the SDGs are not exactly where they're meant to be. So now we need to actually make sure that we can change the status quo as it is right now, and blockchain, and dare I say AI on the top of it, can actually make that difference.
Did you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, and we've been talking about the like blockchain for sustainability and what its impact is on sustainability and related topics. And on the other side, the sustainability of a blockchain is often equated to how green it might be, right? How carbon intensive its footprint might be, how much energy it consumes, typically associated with Bitcoin's proof of work. And of course, there's orders of magnitude less energy consumption and carbon intensivity when you have proof of stake blockchains like Cardano's. The interesting bit about that right now is before, for a big point in time, you had this more as a kind of marketing gimmick. My chain is green. Now you have a regulatory environment that's progressing more and more towards the need for regulatory compliance in terms of environmental standards. And that isn't just only about how much energy is consumed by a network, but also how much electronic waste is generated by a network as it scales, as it reaches this critical mass adoption. And this is a really interesting space to be in. And being in a few standard setting working groups and all of this, it's really fascinating to see an industry as young as blockchain. In a sense, Bitcoin went live in 2009. An industry this young doing so much to actually at least contribute to the greener agenda for the SDGs. Whether it's finding new ways to provide energy sources for validators, or reducing energy consumptions of consensus protocols overall.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, if we want to see in the future that we will have more strategic planning towards achievement of the SDGs, and that we will develop on the enterprise level more impactful business models, I think the key question is contribution. This is one of the 5 key questions also in the Global Impact Management Project framework, because this is the hardest to measure, and it's often overclaimed. So that's why, I don't know if you have the information, UNDP developed the SDG impact standards for enterprises and for the investors. So basically it introduced the framework and the tools how each of the organization can employ from the beginning, from the strategy development, business development, and operations, the impact standards and the impact indicators, and how basically can integrate in their operations the impact measurement and reporting processes. So I would say we have now the tools, how we need to use, this kind of the opportunity to be more impactful in the future, but definitely like focusing on the question of how really we are contributing and what kind of the proofs we have is the key one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm just thinking, we've talked through some of the opportunities that this technology brings and the impact, and also some of the challenges. You mentioned the need for education, the need to reduce friction with user onboarding. I was keen to understand a little bit more about how Cardano was working with international organizations like UNDP and UNHCR, but also governments. You mentioned the importance of evolving regulatory landscapes to drive the adoption of these blockchain solutions. And I guess maybe as a follow-up question to that, how this might also be following on to things like job creation, for example, and advancing maybe adjacent humanitarian and environmental initiatives. So that might be interpreted differently for each of you. But Alex, do you want to kick us off there? Because I think that might be really right in your wheelhouse.
I can do that, yeah. I think really key to this in the sense that this is a very still new technology, relatively speaking. Education is key. The access to quality education in the blockchain space is really tough. In my own journey, I just remember the rabbit holes I had to go down on the internet and the multiple YouTube videos just to find, at the end, maybe paragraphs worth of really valuable information.
Yes.
So we have a strong approach, and one of our core focus areas at the foundation is education, and obviously tailored to different stakeholders depending on their needs, whether these are policymakers, regulators, our approach is different for them, or UN organizations, other large commercial enterprises. The approach is tailored, really, and we have experts in different fields within the foundation, and we know where to reach out to when we need extra capacity on this. Additionally, we've been building a product called the Cardano Academy, which attempts to create a really accessible, understandable, and free-to-use program in 4 courses that is usable by the broader community, but also something that can be integrated in an open source fashion in other, let's say, larger enterprises, learning and management systems. So really, the key aspect of any of these types of relationships starts with education. And then we start looking into perhaps what are the challenges. But our counterparties need to actually understand the technology to some level to be able to give us that feedback of, actually, this is our problem, and maybe blockchain can be useful there. And then we can start that conversation after that.
Got it. What's that experience been like for you, Theo?
I fully agree. That's why we are collaborating now, right? So I think that really education and adoption are 2 topics that should be spotlighted. Like within the UNDP, currently we are developing, basically we have 2, and we are developing 2 new initiatives regarding the education. For 2 years we have online education and the manual how basically Web3 technologies can be used to achieve SDGs. So this is dedicated to UNDP staff. We also have Atrium, which is like a sandbox environment, online platform, which was developed by UNDP, UNICEF, and UN Innovation Network, basically to support UNDP staff in the development and testing the ideas before they will start with the implementation of the development projects. Currently, we are developing the Blockchain Academy for the UNDP staff, for the whole UNDP ecosystem, because really low number of UNDP colleagues understand what is blockchain and what kind of the potential this technology could bring to the development projects. And the 4th thing is basically we are developing now also the guidelines, step-by-step guide, guideline for UNDP staff, how they can ideate, how they can develop, and how basically they can implement impactful projects based employing the blockchain technology. So I would definitely say before the blockchain technology will be adopted within the UNDP ecosystem, we should definitely take some time to educate people in order basically to have the baseline, also to create and ideate new projects.
Very interesting. Carmen, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, of course, empowerment, education. I think you should imagine any of you being now a refugee, what you actually would require for services. and going forward in your life. At the same time, you have to imagine that a refugee today is on average something like 20 years actually a refugee.
Wow.
So for that reason, we need to make sure that we have solutions and resilience in place that the refugees can go about their livelihoods going forward. So as an element to start with the blockchain, with ID, with all the bells and whistles in that sense that we have today available, we can really provide to the refugees so much a better journey going forward to be able to have a chance in life to get on with their own empowerment, and making sure that they actually have that possibility to earn and to spend. So it's, you know, to us, it's normal to earn and to spend, but for them, to earn right now would be the aid assistance, but also to make sure that they can spend it, the utility, how to utilize the cash that they can generate on one side, but also spend on the other side, so they would be less dependent on aid going forward.
Yeah, follow-up question for you, if you don't mind, Carmen. I was just thinking, you were talking a lot about cross-border relief payments, and I can imagine that must provide a great sense of dignity for someone receiving that, say, you know, as opposed to free physical handouts or a voucher or something, for them to be able to choose what they spend their own money on, and have them really empowered. So, question for all of you, but just to start with Carmen, I'm just thinking, moving forward, what's on the horizon? You touched on some other use cases other than payments, like identity. What remains unsolved? What's next for you in the blockchain space?
Yeah. So I think what remains unsolved is identity to some extent, to have an identity that is portable and actually delivers the cash on the device anytime, anywhere, anytime, sort of thing. And the ID is really crucial to be portable. So if that ID is not portable, then many things will not come into place. And there we have the regulations, we have interaction, also to make sure that you know your customer. Actually, we call it now know your refugee. So we have a lot of data on refugees. So if you like, it is to value the data that actually our organization has on everyone, to actually utilize it, but in a secure way, with full security, and giving all these options to go cross-border and to go about their lives as any one of us would actually do.
It's incredibly impactful and important work. Theo, what about you? What
I
remains
mean, we're
unsolved?
similar organizations, basically.
Yeah.
We are implementing similar projects, so I would say we are facing similar challenges. That's why we are starting to think how we can be more efficient in the future in the delivery of the programs. We have a lot of bottlenecks in the IDE operations. Of course, it depends which kind of the stakeholder we are working, but when we are talking about real cases, like civil society organizations, so social entrepreneurs, definitely the question of identity and verification is the key one. Of course, we are dealing with a lot of challenges also with the payment systems and cross-border payments. And so, yeah, basically we're in the same part of the challenges. That's why I think in the future, also through Cardano Foundation and using the Cardano community, we can collaborate a lot. Not only UN agencies, but also some other international NGOs and other international networks, development networks. Because I really believe that blockchain technology, if we are putting like impact first, could be used for a good cause.
I think from the CS perspective, we're part of this entire community called Cardano. And of course, we focus on the technology side of stuff, and we try to look at what is possible currently and what would be possible in future. And if you look back at the way that technology development has happened on Cardano's stack, it's been quite fantastic over the past couple of years, seeing metadata capability, native assets, smart contracts, etc. Now we're talking about interoperability, scalability. There's been a lot of iterations and innovations when it comes to the digital identity space. And so from the CS perspective, we're monitoring this. We're doing our own technical work as well, and looking at, again, going from an education perspective and then seeing where solutions fit into a broader scheme of things. And of course, for us, it's really important to showcase how this technology can actually be used for good, so to speak.
I love that. Well, we're nearing the end of our talk. I was just thinking we've probably got a lot of people in the room who are real builders. They're probably looking at building projects of their own and thinking about how can they incorporate some of this thinking, some of these positive impact themes into their own business. What advice would you give to them when they're entering this space, perhaps thinking about the types of organizations that they can partner with, maybe even the way that they should be measuring the impact, like we talked about earlier, particularly thinking about, Alex, I know you're very passionate about triple bottom line reporting and that people, planet, profit kind of thinking. I'd love to hear from you what you would give to them in terms of advice.
So in terms of the triple bottom line, I just want to tweak people, planet, and value.
Oh, okay, I love that.
And in blockchain, the fantastic thing is it's shared value. And this is something that I think public-private partnerships in the more traditional sense have been trying to crack for a really long time. And you have a number of these companies that are being built in Web3 that really have this kind of shared value creation that's so necessary to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. I don't have much more to tell builders how and what they should be thinking and doing, but I do have a question for them. Ooh. In the sense that I grew up when the internet was starting to pop up in the 90s and early 2000s when we started going from dial-up to broadband, and a big theme at the time was globalization.
Yes.
So as the internet was being adopted, this was a major theme in people's, firms, enterprises' minds. This obviously had an impact in how the internet actually had an impact on how globalization was done, and globalization also had an impact on how internet was adopted. And today we have a certain kind of internet. And right now, the emerging technology or technologies are, let's say, blockchain, AI, and the major theme we have today is sustainability. And I just want the audience to kind of reflect about sustainability in the broadest sense of the word, and how that might impact the adoption of blockchain technology and AI, and vice versa.
Mm. Yeah. I would just like to add that for the developers, you have to think that you don't have just one client, it's multi-stakeholder, and ultimately you can reach a lot of people and make a difference, and really make a difference. And I think we are on a journey, and the good thing is that the international organizations, UN organizations, have engaged in that technology, and it's just the beginning, and there's so much more to do, and you can really help us, and you have already inspired us to get on that journey. So I think that you have your place, you can make a difference, and you can help us to go much further.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to be done at this very nascent stage of the industry. What about you, Theo? Any words of wisdom?
We already discussed. I think it's like black and white. So we can always decide, we can use the technology and the blockchain technology well. So we can fundamentally change, what we are doing, how we are doing, with whom we are doing the business. But we can also choose not to use it so good. So as I said at the beginning of this panel, then we will just contribute to the existing problems. And there is a simple tool. I mean, we can easily just develop the impact-first strategies and impact-first business model. Profit will be still here, so it's maybe easy decision to do in the future.
That's brilliant. If I can add, I want to say we've talked a lot about emerging markets too, and I think a lot of people think in that framing that it's just a good thing to do to be helping people in need, but these are also underserved markets which represent a great business opportunity that other people haven't really jumped on yet. So you kind of get that double whammy in terms of doing good, but also an amazing business opportunity. Well, this has been, as expected, a brilliant talk. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.